Good morning, everybody. For me, good evening for you, for many. So wonderful to see everyone. As we all come in into the space, great. Lovely. Kim, did you want to say a few words, or are you happy for me to go? I don't know if you...
I think how about we give it just ourselves another minute or so. It can sometimes take a little moment for everyone to arrive in the room.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you. What do you reckon, Jerry? Is the tide slowing down?
Yeah, we've got 20 here. I think there'll probably be some more joining, but probably just gets going.
Okay. Right, how about we do that? Good evening and a little good morning. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight for our first workshop for the year. My name is Kim. So I'll be doing a little bit of a welcome for our guest, Karen. And but first, I would like to extend a big thank you to Jerry. To me, he's there. I don't know if it is on your screen too. He's the guy, the IT guy, holding all of this together, who managed all of our registrations and payments and sent out all of the flyers and all of that background work that make this kind of event possible. So thank you, Jerry. So it's my pleasure to introduce Karen Rawden. She's a psychosynthesis psychotherapist living in Northamptonshire countryside in England. We attach a little bio at the end of our flyer. I hope you've had the opportunity to have a read of that. Karen's 2020 thesis called Walking the Tightrope won the Emma Stavro MA Award, and that award is for a thesis that advances academic principles and clinical insight into psychosynthesis. And it was on this topic that she's presenting tonight that she wrote about. And before I read Karen's thesis, I had very much enjoyed an interview that was hosted by Kenneth Sorensen online. It was very captivating and informative on this subject. And I remember at the time, I thought, gosh, that woman's like a bit of a sprite. And it was just the moment, it was just a little flash. But then I read her thesis called Walking the Tightrope. And I remembered that I had thought, oh, she's a bit like a sprite. So I took the opportunity to look up what sprite was. I found out a sprite is an elemental creature or an ethereal entity. And sprite comes from the word esprit, which is French for spirit.
Oh.
And I found out that sprites can sometimes breathe water as well as air, and sometimes they can fly. And so what I was appreciating is that this subject area, autism, ADHD, OCD, impulse disorders, these can be quite heavy, difficult, complex, still emergent fields, can be quite frustrating. And yet here is a practitioner who's taking a very spacious approach to the subject area and herself embodies a spaciousness. But Karen is not lightweight, as you will find out. Yes, there's spaciousness and nimbleness evident in her work, but all throughout is the type of existential courage that we all need to come home to ourselves. And I hope that in this presentation this evening will get a much clearer idea or more informed idea about how we can serve ourselves and also in particular our clients who are considered different. Over to you, Karen. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for that a wonderful introduction. Yeah, very humbling actually, and lovely too. Just reminds me, yes, I'm not in charge of this. And there's something else so much greater than us at work in this space, and that really informs and just informs my work, but also informs my ego, and just brings me back home to myself. And I'm really so grateful to be sharing this work with you, this life with you. Yeah, my intention for this space is just to bring it and to share with you what it feels like to be in the room with someone with neurodivergence, what it's like to live with neurodivergence, and that the story is always unfolding, and this work is incredibly great. And I believe that psychosynthesis, I've said it many times, I just think it's so beautifully placed to work in this area, and I can't wait to share that with you as to how and why. So what else can I share with you about me? So I was diagnosed with ADHD in 10 years ago, and when I actually went for my assessment, I was really hoping it wouldn't be that, to the extent that I had brain scans and all sorts, because at that time there was, and even now there was a lot of stigma around. I come from a family I've got 3 brothers. 2 of my brothers also have ADHD. My nephew and my daughter have ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and my daughter actually wanted to come with me. She said, "I'll just come with you. I don't need to go to school today." She's very bright and sprite-like in her own way, and she really wanted to have her voice here because she knows of what it's like to have therapy that isn't reflective of what the inner experience is and doesn't meet the being. And this work is for me around that quest for self and meeting the being with the being in this room. So let's do a meditation, shall we? Okay, let's do a bit of a breathing. Yeah, so get yourself really comfortable. Everyone okay? Let me see thumbs up. We're okay? Yeah, anyone who's not okay, really, just notice what you need in this space. Okay, let's begin. So in your own time, with your feet on the floor and yourself in the seat, allow your eyes to lower or close, and begin by taking a couple of nice deep breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And noticing how with every out breath, your shoulders drop and you land more in your seat. And with every out breath, begin to gather your energy from the day back towards your being. Maybe you've had a very busy day. Notice where your thoughts and your mind are, where they still linger, and breathe that energy back home to you, slowly and gently, bringing your attention and your thoughts, your mind back home to you. And notice the speed of your thoughts without getting too entwined in them, too connected, just noticing and witnessing what you're with. And imagine what it is to breathe the air of self through that busyness of our minds and breathing it back to you. And then let go of your attention on your thoughts and come to your emotions. Notice where your emotions were today. And if that energy is still out there, just breathing your energy back, being spread out to the places where it was needed today. With every out-breath, visualize or imagine breathing that energy, breathing your aura back closer to your being to resource you, to come to a place of rest. Allowing the energy of self to move through your emotional experience as it makes its way back to you. And then dropping into your body, really noticing what it feels like to be in your body at this moment. Every in-breath and out-breath, bringing your energy closer to the core of yourself. Noticing where your energy needs to flow in your body in order to help you to rest into this moment. And then letting go of your attention to your body and really come into that very central place deep within you, where you are most essentially you. And allow yourself to stay in that space, to rest in that space, to be resourced in that space. And from that space, really recognize what it was to bring yourself home to you, to call yourself home. Notice how it was that you found your own unique way to do this. And really affirm that uniqueness, that connection that is yours. That is both holding and expansive, warm and also light. Comforting and refreshing. And in your own time, in a few moments, begin to bring yourself back into this space, but do it slowly, gently, so as not to move so quickly that you lose the energy that you're with. And as you do that, really noticing what you need in this space, to be in this space. And slowly, in your own time, begin to bring your awareness back into this space, back into your room, back into your body. And we'll begin. Right. We'll come back to that sense of how you managed to bring yourself home to you. Notice also if there was resistance at all, because resistance has always got to have a place in the room. Just like my glass of water needs a place in the room. Where's it gone? I'll find it in a moment anyway. Right. I'm going to go through a few slides with you. What I don't want to do is to lose our connection. So just spend some time really just looking at each other and noticing that we're in this space and together we create this space. I'm not a huge fan of PowerPoints, but my inner child, she quite likes them because they feel very safe and holding and boundaried. But so we'll do just enough to help that to be. And in the second part of our session this morning or this evening, I'm going to do away with the PowerPoints and really bring you all in. So, okay, right, let's do some sharing. Does anyone have any questions first of all? Okay, actually, I really need to hear your voices. So if you're willing, if you'd like to just bring in a word or two words. I'm aware we've got a number of people here, so we don't want to be taking too much time, but really I would love to hear your voice. Yeah, and please check in when you're ready.
Feeling very peaceful.
Thank you, Dale.
Hi, Karen. Yes, it's lovely to be with you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John.
That was a lovely meditation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fiona. Good to see you.
Curious and grateful.
What was that first one, Krista?
Oh, Krista, I'm feeling very after quite a busy day.
Ah, who did I miss? Who was speaking? Jean.
Curious and grateful.
Thank you.
I'm really interested in what you have to say. It is touching on a lot of work that I'm doing right now in my writing.
Great. Thank you. Lovely to see you.
I feel full of curiosity and a lot of anticipation.
I'm quite excited to be on this call today because I work with a lot of young people with ADHD and ASD. So thank you.
Thank you, Steph.
Hi, Karen. You can't see me behind the screen. It was a beautiful meditation. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to hearing what you have to share about ADHD. I have colleagues who done 2 PhDs because of the ADHD. Could not sit still, but very clever, very bright. Thank you.
Yes, the overachieving element. One of the strengths potentially of neurodivergence. Thank you. Who's next?
I'm adding my curiosity from my place in Australia.
Who's that? Who's speaking? I can't see.
Loretto.
Ah, Loretto, great. Thank you. Great.
Catherine. Yeah, Karen, I'm really well, it's just lovely to be able to hear someone that knows what they're talking about in the psychosynthesis world talking about this. So important stuff. So I'm looking forward to what you have to say.
Oh, it is. Very difficult to get into an hour and a half, by the way. Thank goodness we've got 3, but also very difficult to get into 3 hours. So yes, it will be an introduction and, really highlighting how psychosynthesis can just be so powerful in this work. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Karen. This is Cheiko. Hello. I feel I'm open and very curious.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Hi, Karen. Thank you for the beautiful meditation. Just being really at peace and really present. Looking forward to the evening, and hello to everyone else too.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dea.
I'm aware in that meditation how active, how dynamic that process of bringing back energy is. And I got a little warmed up to feeling sometimes like I can't do it fast enough. So even as I'm sitting here and enjoying everybody, I am still coming back into myself. Yes.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important. But actually, there is something unique in the time and the energy and the way we bring it in. And that it has to keep continuing. So, that's really important in this particular session as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Karen. It's Susan here. Apologies for the blank screen to start with. I was still having my dinner and I didn't think you'd all appreciate watching me eat. But my digestive system really appreciated the centering. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
My experience of the meditation was of peace and more gratitude for being in the space. And I also feel very grounded, so I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Leanne, thank you. Thank you. You may have noticed I do it slightly differently sometimes. A meditation, I love Asajoli's work with disidentification, body, feelings, mind. And sometimes we have to go to mind first before we can drop back down into the body. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I'm glad to hear that grounded energy too. It's so important. And, we can't be grounded sometimes without being ungrounded first, right? As Sajoli says, we can't be disidentified until we're identified. We have to get caught in order to become uncaught. And they both come together at the same time. I think it's important. Thank you, Leah. Who else hasn't shared?
Hi, Karen. It's Angela here. I'm glad you mentioned that about the meditation. I found it really peaceful, and I noticed I was like, this is around a different way to what I'm used to, and just sitting with what that feels like, but also the potential in that. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Hi, not John.
Yes, I'm not John, I'm Peter. Yes, I noticed the different order too, and I really liked that, and I liked your languaging about dropping into the body. And I really liked it too, of that connecting to that place inside that is most me. So I'm just sitting here really staying connected with that. Lovely feeling. Thank you.
Lovely. Rubbing my tummy. Oh, yes. Yeah, welcome home. Okay. Has anyone not spoken that would like to? Okay. All right, well, we are already on this way, on this work. The title of this this workshop is Different, Not Less. The meditation was different. You know, sometimes we can think that that topic is really just about, you know, talking about brains, talking about neurodivergence. And I wonder how we can work as psychosynthesis practitioners differently and not less. How being connected in this way, where I'm on one side of the earth and you're on the other, is different and not less. And there's spaciousness between us. And there has to be spaciousness in this work. Yeah. I'm going to turn to some slides right now, and then we'll go into another meditation a bit later on. And at that point, I'll pause the slides, maybe come back to them a bit later. Let's see where we get on. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. This is where we become completely humbled. Well, I do. Let's see. Okay, oopsie. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, so I'm going to be talking to a blank screen for a little while, which is not my preference, but hopefully it will be helpful for you. So this is our program that we're doing today. This is our agenda, and we're now on that third part. We go into a meditation a bit later on, a different meditation, coming into some breakout groups. And then we're really going to open to that space for self. There's a real practical guidance, and we'll see what evolves and what emerges in this space, okay? So start with something from my lovely Roberto Assagioli. I have such an affinity and such a gratitude towards Roberto for the work that he began and how he bestowed it to us and handed it over to us to work in a way that possibly was even beyond what he could have comprehended. And but my goodness, what a wonderful foundation. I love this this quote here: the self is not merely an observer, but it can also be active in modifying the personality. That is, it can direct and regulate the various functions of the psyche. It can be a will-er. Now, I've got a lot of references to send you after the session, and this is part of a much bigger quote, actually, that's in an interview that was done back in 1973, the year I was born. And yeah, so it's a really wonderful reminder, actually, that self is always in the room for me. And even whatever presents, however it presents, there's always it's a vehicle for self in its presentation. And as guides, we can really do this work incredibly well, to sit and to hold space and to listen for the voice of self and help our clients to hear their voice of self too. Okay, so I am not going to do a whole series on the biology of neurodivergence. I've got some resources I can send you if you're interested. I could talk about this for hours, but I really want to come into the soul of this work. So I'm just hoping to give you just enough, and to give you a little bit of an idea about what we're looking at, okay? Neurodivergence is an incredibly broad area. It's a broad subject, and the term itself is a non-medical term and is used because language matters. And I'll talk about that a lot more when we look at the practical guidance around working with neurodivergence, choosing our language carefully, being open also to getting it wrong and to hearing what's important for the client is a way of bonding, is a way of helping to create the container. You're always creating the container. And I love that actually we have language now that gives something of an air of choice, that actually we're all so diverse in our own ways, and so the term is actually different, not deficit, respectful and expansive. And I was looking at some research about how the term itself is incredibly empowering for those people who may have been sidelined or labelled in a certain way, that talks about their deficits. And even the title of, ADHD has a deficit in it. I'll come on to that in a moment. So, okay, there are lots of areas of neurodivergence. I've worked with a number of these, apart from Williams syndrome and the last one, which is coming. It's been covered. Let's see. Yeah, I've worked with all of these, except for Prader-Willi and Williams. And this obviously is not an exhaustive list. You might have seen some of these on here. You might be curious as to the fact that there's some on there that you might not have seen as neurodivergence. And there's more as well around other things such as OCD can have a neurodivergent element to it as well. Okay, and again, I'm going to be sending these to you. So, psychosynthesis and neurodivergence. Right, these are some of the amazing, incredible ways and reasons why we work so incredibly well with neurodivergence. The focus on the emergent, the being that is coming into the room. When I was being taught, my one of my lecturers said, when your patient enters the room, never ever forget that you are in the presence of grace. You're in the presence of grace. And that self is always in the room. We can get very caught up on labels, but actually sometimes the label is the only experience of self that a person can have at the beginning of our work together. And if we're very quick to kind of go, oh, I don't do labels, then what we're doing is diminishing the aspect of self that that person may be connecting with. Right. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a look at this. I know it's a lot on the screen, so don't worry, we're not going to go through it all, but these, when we go into our second part of our workshop, which is actually on the 17th of April, and I hope you'll join me here, we'll really begin to look at these in terms of case studies, in terms of how I'll work with these, how 10 psychological laws, who knew that the 10 psychological laws can be turned on their head in a certain way, and worked so well with neurodivergence. I love it. I love subpersonalities. What's incredible is that when I'm working with people with neurodivergence, one of the things, even if I don't even know that it's in the room, holding space for what is, there's certain signs and clues. But what's really amazing is that the work's already happened before we've even started working. They come in and they talk about the part of me feels this and a part of me feels that. And that, I mean, how incredible. It's like that work is already started. And what we know from trauma work is that part work can be incredibly impactful in working with trauma. And it is the same with neurodivergence. And we'll talk about trauma as well. We'll do a little bit today, but we'll do mostly next time that we meet. Levels of consciousness, one of the things I'd like to talk about is, and just remind that, Asa Jolie said, we can only ever work with someone at the level of their consciousness. Wherever their consciousness has come to rest, that's where we meet them. And as consciousness expands, and we attune and discern and lean into what is happening in the space and what is being called for, and what is also not being called for. What of ourselves we can let go of. We also allow our own consciousness to land in a space that is also led by something else that is greater than you as a therapist, than your room, and your client. And it's holding and expanding in a way that our little consciousness, mine in particular, can't really focus on all in one go. Yes, so there's so many incredible ways that psychosynthesis can work with neurodivergence. And last but not least, Assagioli has playful spirit, and it reminds me not to take myself so seriously. and actually, humor, well-placed, self-directed humor is can be incredibly healing, and I love that part of this work. It's always reminding me, what this is about. So here's just some of the ways. Let's go to the next. Oopsie. Next slide. Okay. Is there an elephant in this room? Talking of playful energy. Trauma and neurodivergence. I'm not going to spend so much time on this. I have got a lot of resources, but what I would say is that with neurodivergence and trauma, there's a bi-directional relationship. But I'm going to pause my screen. Let's see if I can do that and see you all. No, I'm not going to do that. We'll just resume a bit. Oop, no. There we go. I'm going to not mess around with that so much. Right. So people who have neurodivergence, I saw my daughter masking. I was driving here this morning, I was thinking, when does masking begin? When do we start to adapt and develop parts of ourselves that help us to survive in the world? And I remember seeing my daughter mask for the first time. When I thought about it today, she was about 3.5. She's 14 now. And so, you know, in order to survive, we need our subpersonalities. They are the, you know, come into the world, this spark of self into the world. And we won't survive unless we have the clothing of the world around us. And as we know, you know, that clothing becomes our identification sometimes, and clients become identified with different parts. And we have to have the clothing of the world. We have to have our subpersonalities to help to navigate the things that happen to us in the world. And I was listening to an interview the other day where a girl was talking around having an ASD diagnosis and wondering if the bad things that happened, the ways that she was bullied and marginalized and excluded and shamed and humiliated and confused, would have happened if she hadn't had a brain that was different, that developed differently. It's a good time for me to talk about the brain. Are you okay with this slide being up? Feel free to change your screen so you can see me better. When I talk to people about the brain, I'm fascinated with neuroscience. I love it, actually. And when we think about the amygdala, that part of our brain that has our flight, fight, the fawn, fall, collapse, and freeze experiences, you know, those reactions, they're reactions rather than responses. That part of our brain, if this is I don't know if anyone's ever seen Peter Levine's model where he does a kind of the flipping the lid. Ah, that's great, thank you, that's better. I can see you. This part of the brain, the amygdala, this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobes. This part of our brain does not develop until we're in early to mid adulthood. anyone with neurodivergence, it will develop later, and it's always developing. So for me, this part of our brain is the gatekeeper. It's the part of our brain that says, it's okay, it's not a dinosaur, it's a car door. It's not the shock, it's okay, coming home to ourselves. It's the regulating part of our brain. Now, there's so many elements of someone with neurodivergence who lives from the amygdala. They live from that very reactive part of our brain. And so trauma will automatically happen to people who are more vulnerable to trauma, who are, don't have that regulating center, don't have a stronger sense of themselves. With ADHD, one of the things that is often talked about in the medical journals, in the research, is that there is a separation from self, and that's even described in medical rather than actually looking at a psychospiritual lens. Because so people who have had this experience of neurodivergence are more likely to have experiences of adverse childhood experiences. There's some crazy figures out there, which I won't talk about, but I can send you the links, and I will send you the links about those. And also having neurodivergence will also mean that, it goes both ways. I'm kind of mixing my words a little bit because I don't want to go too much into it, but I know that there's a lot of controversy around some of the writings around neurodivergence, where it used to be said that trauma is responsible for creating something like ADHD. What we know is that trauma exacerbates ADHD in particular, and ASD or ADHD, which is a mixture of autism and ADHD. And that it exacerbates, doesn't necessarily create neurodivergence. There isn't enough research to go back to the beginning of time to see how our brains develop, how our brains adapt and evolve over the millennia. We just don't have that information. So it's really easy to think, oh, it's just because of the parents, or it's just because of grandparents. It's too far, it's too short of a perspective, so we don't have that information. And actually my belief is that we can get really stuck if we just focus on how it started rather than what it is. We miss the being if we focus too much on the origins of neurodivergence. I'm really, really very I really, really mean that. It's so important that actually we can get identified with needing to know. So it's about how do we let go of how do we let go? So just know enough in order to let go. So going back, the other part of that slide was, what was the other part of that slide? Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can share it again. Bear with me. Where's it go? There we go. Okay, everyone see that again? So what we're looking at again is medical model versus psychosynthesis. So as I said, I really love neuroscience. I love it. I think it's fascinating. I think there's something incredible about watching something that we really don't know very much about, and that also reminds me so much of the unfolding of self. That there's a very famous quote: "The more we know, the less we understand." And I know that when I'm working with neurodivergence, sometimes that medical model is the only anchor that people have. And so they'll come and they may know ever such a lot about about the research, about treatments, and is it possible, rather than having it as versus psychosynthesis and one or the other, can we hold space for both in the room and really allow ourselves to let go of what we feel needs to be a psycho-spiritual approach, because perhaps our consciousness isn't as expanded in order to hold space for both. As I say, I've got lots of resources that I'll send you that talks about this a bit more. I'm really happy to answer some questions as well. And when we go into the case studies, we'll look at this a little bit more about what people bring to the room and how they bring it and how they bring themselves, and the work of psychosynthesis. So, right, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Okay, so if you're willing, I would like to give you a little bit of an experience of what having ADHD especially is like for me. This is a personal experience of mine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this meditation, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and Jerry's very kindly sorted the breakout rooms for us. Awesome, thank you, Jerry. And you're going to be in either groups of 2 or 3, and you're going to be breaking for 10 minutes. I'm going to tell you this now because I don't want to tell you when we go into the meditation, otherwise it'll interrupt it. So when we go into the meditation, when you go into your breakout rooms, you'll have 10 minutes. That means if there's 2 of you, then you have 4 minutes of sharing each. And there's going to be, I really want you to hold space for yourselves, give yourself a good minute or so just to land in the space in your group, to breathe into that space. You don't have to land and then start sharing straight away. Give yourself spaciousness. So there will be 10 minutes in the breakout room to hold space for one another and to share in whichever way you feel drawn to share after the meditation. Okay. A little bit of a safety notice as well during this meditation. If ever you find that you need to open your eyes, or you need to land in yourself in a different way, if it becomes too much, that's also okay too. Really tune into yourself with what you need. Okay. All right, everybody. So as I said, we'll go into the meditation, and then Jerry's going to open the breakout rooms, and I'll invite you to go into your breakout rooms for 10 minutes before we come back into this space. Okay. Okay, so in your own time, allow your eyes to close after you've found yourself into a comfortable position. Breathe into that space again, bringing yourself home. And remember throughout this that you're held in this group. You're held by the spirit, the superconscious, of the source that is greater than all of us, holding us in this place of goodwill. Imagine now, if you will, that you are standing inside a room. The room has a door, but it is locked, and the key is nowhere to be found. Around this room are 10 large television screens. These are switched on and are all blaring on different channels, and the noise is unbearable. The TVs are all showing images that range between mildly interesting and important to watch. but there are no controls to mute or turn off the televisions, and they have no buttons to do this manually. Imagine the cacophony. Imagine the flashing pictures. Imagine trying to focus on one screen for any length of time. In the center of the room is a table on which sits an old-fashioned telephone with a cable. And now imagine that the phone rings, and the person on the end of it needs to speak to you. You have been waiting for this call. You have something important to discuss, and you have something to offer. However, these clashing noises and images make it difficult to hear the person, and makes it difficult to concentrate on what they're saying, or indeed what you want to say to them. What makes this matter worse is that the person can't hear the blaring noise from the televisions. In fact, they think you're sitting in a room, a quiet room, just like them. When you're ready, we're going to open the rooms. Just take some time when you go into the rooms to land before you begin your sharing. We have time. Welcome back, people. We'll just wait for everyone to come back into the space. And then we'll have some time of sharing and great. Here they all come. It's always a good sign when there's waiting to the absolute last minute. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
I'm just starting off to get water.
Okay. Right. So there's a little bit of time to just share your experience. I'm aware that we're running about 5 minutes behind, so that's going to be minimizing Leanne's time at the very end to just do a quick roundup. But who would like to bring themselves in and be aware of time? So we've got a minute or so each if you want to share, 30 seconds to a minute, really.
I was very appreciative of your description, because I immediately got a visual representation of what it's like to be in that world, and the experience was overwhelming, and also just incredibly like it totally made sense how you described that, because it's what the clients described to me, where that they're constantly, mind is going from one place to another, and it's very hard to focus and concentrate on one thing, and because there's all this other stuff happening around them. And yeah, it was a very good visual or auditory experience.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Thank you for sharing. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Something like they talk about attention deficit, but actually the name itself doesn't really represent the lived experience of what this is like, because it's not that there's an absence of attention, it's that there's so much attention, and it's a really so listening to, I can hear the car outside, I can feel my cold, there's a flickering candle, there's nothing gets filtered out. The selective attention is really hampered. We need selective attention, otherwise we'd be feeling our clothes and our body all the time, our feet in our shoes, in our socks, everything would be unbearable, and that's what it's like. So It's not an absence of attention. It's an impairment to be able to focus and direct attention. And while I talked about that prefrontal cortex and how there's so many elements of our brain that actually really help with that, we can be active participants and collaborators in the process of helping our brains to develop. I think that's just fascinating. I love that. And that speaks to me so much of will energy when connected to self, of being able to attune and to create enough of a pause to go, okay, what is going on and what do I need? And in that pause, we're also developing our consciousness, our brain, as well as our connection to self. It's fascinating. And thank you, Susan, for sharing.
Thank you.
Karen, I just found it really a humbling experience. And again, you know, I have had clients describe to me everything sort of very similar to that meditation, and having experienced it tonight, and having the focus to experience it, it just sort of filled me with a bit of awe how some of the young people I work with, what they have to do as a daily struggle to make it through school or to make it through university, and, you know, to carry on and do all the things that need to be done. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And our culture is set up to steal our attention away from us, steal everything that we have: money, time, attention, focus, priorities. And so even without being over the clinical threshold for the intensity of the characteristics of something like ADHD, even without that, your clients will come, you know, with an experience of what it is to be in this world, and you will also have that experience too. And it can be overwhelming, so easy to have what's really important drowned out in our efforts to survive. Thank you, Steph.
Hi, Karen. It's Hua again. I'm here. I really wanted to thank you for the meditation that put me in the room that is locked and capable, and experience how people who live with ADHD, how their life is, their inner world is. To experience it, that's so very different, and it's enlightening, to me, that has a deeper understanding of what they live with every day. And also, me and Dia, we talked also about how when they were like young people with ADHD at school, they were told to be like, to shut down, quiet, you know, be quiet, don't seeking attention, or you know, troublemaker. Or so I thought with, you know, in their world there's so much going on, but they can't live out, let other people know how their world is like. Instead, they were labeled by, you know, with discouraged to show up themselves. So they can't. Yeah, for me, I would find very difficult to feel that I'm at home in the world if people don't know me, what is going on inside me. But thank you very much. I now have a better understanding and more compassion, I would say, feel compassion towards ADHD. I have not worked with them, but I have colleagues who have that. Thank you for the enlightening experience.
Yeah, thank you. And it's the same in a different way with something like autism. So something like autism and ADHD. they were only assessed and diagnosed together as a joint disorder in itself in 2013. So I mean, this is really, we're very, very much at this very beginning of this work of really understanding this world. And thank you for bringing what you did. Autism, I had someone describe it the other day as in South America, they describe it, oh, those are the people who have a world inside themselves. And for me, I was really moved by that. Actually, it wasn't diminishing at all. It was something around there's another experience going on inside, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Who else?
Hi, Karen. I didn't speak before, so I hope I'm not.
I know. I can see. It's good to hear you.
Sorry if I cut someone off there, but I just want to thank you, and I am sitting here hypothesizing about a client with ASD, and this is very helpful. So thank you for that. Just a couple of comments. I couldn't help but see a parallel between all those TV screens and all the faces I see right in front of me. So I'm glad that most are on mute, but I just, that was not lost on me. Yeah, I am provoked to think about when you put Down syndrome in there, because I know a bit about that, and I am not sure whether I agree with you, and I am going to go away and think about that. So I have been challenged to look at my thoughts and knowledge around that.
Yeah,
that's useful, but yeah, certainly strikes me in a slightly uncomfortable way, and that really does intrigue me when that happens.
Yeah, Mark, I'm totally with you. Actually, I didn't just bring that list in myself. I saw it, and I almost didn't put it in, and then I thought, "Ooh, look at me excluding." I don't really understand it. It really prompted me to think I need to do some more work around. I've worked with Down syndrome.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, thank you for something that has made me stop and think. And I shall be back for the next session, so I'll let others speak.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you also for bringing that in. It's, you know, I love the resistance and the kind of the part of going, hold on a moment, I'm not sure I agree. It's, yeah, I'm with you. And yeah, let me know what you find out and I'll do the same.
Karen, I have to unfortunately go catch a train. I have a 2.5-hour journey to get home to my part of Australia from the office here. And the late train leaves very, very late. But this has been fabulous. I've really enjoyed it. And I have a question for you that I'm really curious to know about because of the reading I've done and what I've known from people. I'm really curious to hear how you will talk about, so I hope I'll be able to come to the next one, how you will talk about that metaphor for all those TV screens and the concept of hyperfocus. And I'll be really, really curious to see how that comes into play with it. But for the meantime, I'm so sorry I have to log out, but it's been lovely. I hope I'll see you on the 17th. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Take care. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, while we've brought hyperfocus in, I'll answer for Meg that hyperfocus, you know, if you imagine being in that room of that actually in order to drown out, perhaps actually is part of it, what we would call like two sides of the dissociative coin, hyperfocus, zoning out. There are ways of managing. I'll talk about my subpersonalities. I've got one subpersonality called the fog, and she just comes in with this blanket of whiteness, almost like a blanket of snow over everything. And I know that she's at work because suddenly I only focus on that thing, and she's, you know, that quality, the quality of self there is saying it's too much for you, so I'm going to just dampen everything down, quieten down. You can just focus on the fact that you've just found a necklace that's got a knot in it, even though you're supposed to be running for the train or whatever, and oh, now I'm doing this. And it's a way of helping me to drown out. Now, of course, actually, if we think about psychosynthesis, we think about Assagioli's work around one-pointedness. You know, in some ways, we might think that the fog and hyperfocus or zoning out is a way of the self trying to break through with one-pointedness, and the personality going, oh, I know what to do, and our little consciousness being not able to open to kind of the what isness and the what may be-ness. So yes, we'll talk about that in case studies, and I'm really setting myself up for quite a lot of work in the next session, but I think I'm good for it. So who else would like to come in? And I'm so grateful to hear you, and also just want to hear as well, you know, how it was to be with one another in that breakout space too. It's equally important.
I just would like to add to the room scenario that for me one really key part of it was that telephone line, and about the effort that's involved with trying to reach other people when one is swamped with all of that noise and all of that stimulation. And you know, the neurodivergent people need people too, and it's a lot of work to break through all of that to have connection. And as I was sitting in that meditative frame, I could feel it in my body, the pain, the effort, the huge amount of effort that it takes to connect. So not only are there 10 televisions blaring and the telephone and a voice on the end of the line, now there's the stimulation of all of the effort to try and get, you know, that enough of a focus to be able to do that, to withstand all of the noise and manage all of that, and want connection. There's an agony. There's an agony to it, and I think for some of our clients that shows up somatically.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on. Absolutely. And I can see other people nodding and having a resonance of that too. It's interesting. I was always perplexed that when I first wrote that and described it, which was some years ago, that I didn't put it as a phone. It actually has a cable. Because if you think about impulse, how quickly it is to go, I can't stand this anymore, and just pull out the only thing you can do, the cable, which is that disconnection. Oh my goodness, then what happens? And you know, Kim, you brought something else in around the sense of how people present in the room, how people enter into the room, that they may be identified with one thing or identified with more. If we try and take that away from them, if we try and land them in their bodies, it's going to be oversensitizing. And one of the practical things that I say is really get comfortable in this chaos. It's really important as practitioners that we are creating an environment, a facilitating environment, not only for your client, but also for yourself. So extra supervision. If you need to have extra therapy, get some therapy. If you're working with someone that's evoking something within you, that you notice that that a part may be evoked, or a very wounded part of yourself kind of coming into the room, you'll notice it because you'll want to do something, whether it's asking them to stop moving, stimming. Stimming can show up in lots of ways. Then you might want to put your feet on the floor and okay, just breathe. Actually, I really would encourage you to notice, turn your inner supervisor on and really notice how you want to do something, and do it for yourself first. Really breathe it home. You breathe, and allow, if you need to, allow the sound to wash over you and just be with how they need to be in the room, and really help to create some space, some loving space of sitting back, not disengaging, but just being with enough so that it's not going to be evoking some trauma within you. And then once you're out of the space, you know, and you can let go of the models all you like, just breathe. One of the things I love to do is to orient with a client, you know, for myself as well. We do a little, sometimes when the time is right, we'll do something around looking around the room and seeing, what is it around the room? Is there something in this room that changes somatically, changes, it feels better, feels resourcing, feels grounding. There's really some interesting body work that can be done there, and for you as well as client. Together you're creating that space, you're creating the container. Oh, time is marching on and I so want to hear you. So let's do a couple of others if we can, and then we'll begin to draw this session to a close. But first, who would like to bring themselves in?
Karen, thank you for that meditation. And what really hit me was the sense of the person on the other end of the line expecting that I'm in a room that's as quiet as theirs, or, you know, as peaceful as theirs might be, and the loneliness that comes from not being seen in that way. I'm working with someone with OCD at the moment, and I hadn't really thought of OCD as neurodivergent in that way, and so actually even just that connecting in with how their world actually, what it must be like sitting in their world, and where the rest of the world, or much of the rest of the world, doesn't see them. So it's really hit home something for me that I think is going to be really useful for my work.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. We have time for one more, or a question that you need.
When I was putting myself in that room with all those televisions, I could just feel my muscles tensing, my whole body contracting, and I could just imagine myself wanting to hide under that desk where that telephone was and just, you know, protecting myself. And I wonder, I was holding my breath and clenching my toes, and yeah, it was very, very physical for me, very, very somatic response. And it made me wonder about my space, and how much stimulus is in my counseling rooms, because I do dance movement therapy as well, and I have lots of props and color and shapes and textures and things that I like to bring in with movement and what that might do. So I notice your background is grays and soft, and I'm wondering if that's on purpose, and how color and textures and things might be maybe too stimulating in a counseling room.
Absolutely. That it's a really important thing that you're bringing in, Fiona. Thank you for sharing as well. Yes, overstimulation. It's amazing what we think will work and what will be great, and actually it's so individual. I often see people with, you know, we might put on our Facebook or our websites, I create a safe space, but it's actually, I don't know. I think it's so individual. How do we know what's going to be safe for this person? So really checking in. I'm always, be led by curiosity, be led by curiosity, be led by a spirit of love, and invite curiosity of the person that you're with. So what often will happen is that I will check in with the person. How is this for you? Is it, is it too bright? Is it too, and I'll be like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. And then by session 3, they're like, I need the blind closed. Let's close it. Me too. And sometimes I'll be with a flickering candle, which will smell so beautiful, and I'll be like, I've got to turn this candle off. And how is that for you? And when I blow it out, should we leave it in here, or should we, because it'll have black smoke? And just get really curious, because you're always modeling. We are always modeling. We are always mirroring. We are always having an opportunity to affirm and validate. And to inquire, and to invite a voice of self that speaks needs and speaks limitations. And bye-bye, Mark. I'll see you next time. And oh no, yeah. So, and right, we are at time. So listen. Oh my goodness, what a gift! What a gift to have you here, and I can't wait to meet with you all again if you can make it on the 17th next month. I'm going to hand over to Leanne. Please do take some time. You're all, I'm sure, experienced practitioners, so know that actually when you leave here, remember the transition of how important it is before you rejoin your world, of what you may need to be with and let go of, and how you come home to yourself. So thank you. Leanne, over to you, or whoever it is who would like to have this.
I think I'm the sub-personality of Leanne. It's called Dale. Leanne has the sub-personality that's quite likes to speak, welcoming, warm. So she's let that part of herself. Thank you,
Dale. My goodness.
All right.
Quiet one. Coming in.
Thank you so much. It's been, I've written a few words down, but it's just been psychosynthesis. It's been so delicious to be in a space, you and your eloquence and your wisdom, but also my colleagues who have been very well trained. Peter and Helen would be very proud of, after all this time, just how much of the knowledge that they've imparted lives on. It's just really moving. The topic is fascinating, and I just want to end with gratitude and thanks for your eloquence and your wisdom and your openness and your sincerity. And I will definitely be back on the 17th, as I think many people will be as well. So thank you so much, and thanks you to all, Jerry, for your nimble fingers on the breakout rooms and the IT. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
do take